This video will be a little different as I have to start with a pile of demolition before I can get to building. I wanted to actually keep the bay window. I think they're kind of romantic. Never mind what my realtor says about being dated. So I hired a local window supplier to build me a set of windows for it that they'd come and install later. At some point off stream, my bay window arrived and they discovered that the cantilevered portion, the actual sticking out part of the bay, had drooped so much that they wouldn't be able to install the windows. Luckily, the guys I hired build bays as 3 individual pieces instead of one chonk and chonk of a thing that just chonks in all in one chonk and piece, kind of like this picture. So since they built them separately, I had the option to still use them, but on flat instead of in a bay. Realtor's happy because it looks more modern, and I don't lose thousands of dollars in windows that I can't use, so win-win. That meant though that I had to tear out the old bay framing and reframe that wall for the now much wider window. Since this video is dealing with windows, I'm putting a lot of the framing stuff in here, and I'll try to peel some of the other framing out that I did in a different video later. To demo this, I started with the sheathing on the outside because I didn't know how it was structurally attached or not to the house. I tried to take care of the sheathing because at the time a 3/8 inch piece of 4x8 OSB sheathing was $40 to $50. Now it's $17. Something that surprised me a little was how much water was being held by the paper-backed insulation inside the bay seating area. Luckily, I had picked up some free garbage cans from Kijiji, Canada's Craigslist, so I could put them into the van with the stuff inside instead of dumping the stuff into the van. That's always nice because then when I get to the dump, I can empty the whole can at once instead of picking out bits and pieces from the van. I can't find in the recordings where I noticed it, but this bay window was literally just nailed on the side after all the wall framing and sheathing was done. There's no real structural support for it at all. You can see here when I'm prying off one 2x4 that the whole thing is mostly just gonna flop over. Oh wait, hold on. If we're gonna pretend that that's Robin, I have an actual crowbar this time. I wanted to take some heftier swings at this, so it was time to stop pretending that I'm the Joker and bring out MC, Hammer, my sledge. It's worth pointing out, any of the black you see on the lumber that I'm removing, that's not fire damage. That's 100% rust and rot. I had to do a little measuring and figuring before continuing the demo because I wanted to be sure that the new window would be as centered as possible and meet any structural requirements. Then, a bunch more demolition while still trying to take care of the sheathing. I was a little squirrely about taking the 10-foot plus header out without support, so I grabbed my spare telepole, made a little mini beam, and got that set up under the trusses. I wasn't too concerned about it just being a 2x4 beam because there were no shingles up yet, which made the roof a lot lighter. Just ignore the part where I've already done the roofing videos. So this was only going to hold up one end of the trusses and whatever sheathing was there. Also, the other still supported trusses would be helping hold up the newly unsupported trusses with the roof sheathing. Pulling out a big beam all on my own, that's super fun. I tried to have a ladder ready to catch the end of the beam once the remaining top plate gave up. Here we go. To get ready to lift this on my own, I put another piece of OSB on the inside to form a sort of pocket for the left end of the header to sit into. That would keep it from flopping over as I was lifting. One thing I seem to be really good at is cutting my headers too short. I keep calculating my rough opening and then cutting the header to that width. I should always be adding 3 extra inches for the jack studs. I did this a lot in this house, and that really hurt because these 2x10s were like 40 to 50 bucks each. So I got to run out, get 2 new ones, and go at it all again. I separated the previous beam so I could recover the 1/2 inch sheathing in the middle. Didn't want to buy another sheet of that too. Remeasured, re-nailed, and recut. Starting with the left side, I lifted the end into the little pocket I had made earlier. Then I put a secondary catch block in case I didn't lift straight up on the other end of the beam and made it slip out of the pocket. Then put the other jack stud in on a slant so I could put the header on top and then raise the jack stud to be plumb after. A little bit of safety third here, getting the clamp on so the header couldn't fall towards me. A few gentle taps with the sledge and I got this 11.5-foot header into place all on my own. I knew the geometry was never going to be perfect, so I got a shim to raise the header up just a little bit more. The shim wasn't working for me, so I got a slightly longer 2x4 involved to help raise the header. I was trying to make up about a 1/4 inch of the gap at the top, which was most likely being difficult because of the weight of the trusses in the middle. I cut myself a 1/4 inch shim and tapped it in. Problem solved on the right side. Time to take out the catch block and the pocket sheathing. This side needed an extra 1/4 inch, so rinse and repeat. Put the lifting stud in, pull off the pocket cover, and put a shim block in. Finally, with that beam in, I could take out the temporary jack post supporting the trusses. All that was left to do at this point was reframe the bottom of the window area. And yes, I did use my laser to cut each stud to fit. I wasn't going to rest my several $1,000 new windows on a wavy bottom plate. I marked the edges of the 16 so I could use the laser and get the measurements for every stud. I'm taking a hint from Vancouver Carpenter, the drywalleriest carpenter on YouTube, and marking each location in big black Sharpie so that I can see the measurements from a distance. At this point, it was getting too dark to work, so I put in the bottom plate and nailed some sheathing to the front, just trying to keep anyone from wandering in and then away with some of my materials. The next day was pretty straightforward. Cut the studs to proper length and install. Then install separating 2x4s between the windows. End up by sheathing everything. After about 11 hours of streaming, the bay window is fully demoed and the new front windows are fully framed. I didn't need to worry about Blueskin at this point because the window guys were going to take care of that. All I had to do was give them a call and let them know that it was ready so they can get back to work.